Hi guys, Ram here, coming at you with another race in our Melges Cup. It's a sailing race, virtual round robin, and we are playing the part of the United States boat, and we're presenting round 5, United States versus France. So far we got off to a slow start. We lost our first race, and we've done pretty well, winning 3 in a row, and we are in a log jam at the top of the fleet there. And today we're going to be racing against the France boat. France had 3 wins, and they lost their last race. So we'll be going up head-to-head with the France boat, and there they are comparing the 2 boats. United States has a slight advantage in the crew. Pretty good advantage in spinnaker. France has the advantage in the hull. So looking forward to a good race again here as we're proceeding on with our round robin races. Weather is rainy out of the west at force 5, and once again force 5 on the Beaufort scale. There's a fresh breeze with winds 18 to 24 miles an hour, 17 to 21 knots. Again, we're racing the Melges 24. It's a 7.5 meter boat, 24 feet long, 800 kilograms or 1,800 pounds. And this is a pretty exciting boat to sail. It goes pretty dang fast for its size. Now you can see we're racing in Rio de Janeiro, and the weather is kind of nasty today. So visibility is not great. And I'm just kind of trying to get my bearings here on where everything's lying. Again, you can see I've got the compass called up on the bottom right, and just as a reminder, the blue arrow is the true wind direction, the green arrow is the apparent wind direction, and the yellow arrow is the direction of the current. So, okay, there's the starting boat, the committee boat, and I believe I'm on the pre-race side, and I'm having trouble seeing the buoys. Okay, there's the buoy in the distance. Over on the far left, it's the green buoy. The green buoy to the committee boat marks the starting line. And again, I'm having a little difficulty finding my orientation here. Generally, the first leg of a sailboat race is against the wind, but it looks like the wind direction here is not quite right looking at the course markers. So the first mark is not directly against the wind, I don't believe. Well, maybe it is. Anyways, right now we're in the, see, there's the first mark, that one that's just flashing right over there with the green arrow. So it is almost a beam reach to that first mark. So I want to stay close to the French boat, and they're actually coming over close to me now. I'm on a port tack, they're on a port tack. And now we're just kind of maneuvering to get an advantageous position for the start of the race. Right now you can see we're about 30 seconds from the start with the timer down at the bottom. Winds are howling at 23 miles an hour. Again, I'm not really getting a good feel for where the start line is here, so I'm just going to get up close to the French boat and then luff my sails. I'm going to let the sails run a little limp. So there's the mark over there, and I should actually be going back to the line now, 4 seconds from the start. Okay, I think we're going to make it now. I think. Yep, looks like we both got a good start. Again, I was a little disoriented as to where that starting line was, so looks like the French got a little bit of an advantage of us. Once again, racing a sailboat is all about the right-of-way rules, and right now we are both on a port tack. Wind's coming over the left-hand side. They are slightly ahead of us and upwind, and so basically me being the boat behind, I have to stay clear of them. If they should turn in front of me while they're in front of me, I cannot run into the back of them. So we're just kind of almost on a beam reach here. And I want to move up into his wake. I was kind of in his dirty wind, and when the wind strikes the sails on this point of sail, with the wind coming almost 90 degrees off the side of the boat, the wind hits the sails and then kind of drifts off to the right, and it creates like a dead zone. If you're familiar with race cars, they make a draft, and there's that little area of dirty air, which actually makes a suction in a race car, but in a sailboat, it actually disturbs the flow of wind, so you don't want to stay in the dirty wind. So that's why I was moving up closer behind the French boat, and they're going to beat us to the first mark. They're rounding the mark now, but we're not too far behind, so hopefully we'll do well here. There's the next mark in the distance. We got our spinnaker up first, so maybe a little bit extra speed there. Again, I'm moving my boat to position the wind arrow till it turns green. That shows that I'm on the optimum point of sail, fastest point of sail for that wind with this sail up. We got our spinnaker up, the jib is down. We're actually in a good position right now. We're right on the stern of the French boat, and we are just flying along at about 12 and a half knots. I think they have a very slight advantage, but we are a little bit to the inside of the course, so they would have a difficult time tacking, or jibing I should say, in front of us. A jibe is when you're going downwind, and right now the wind is on the left side of the boat, the port side of the boat. A jibe is when you actually turn the stern of the boat through the wind, as opposed to a tack where you turn the nose of the boat through the wind, and then the boom goes from being on the right side where it is now, crosses over to the other side. That's called a jibe. So I'm a little bit on the inside of the course, and they'd have a tough time jibing right now because they would go right in front of me, and there's a good chance I would run into them. And when they're changing course like that, they have to give me room to stay out of their way. But pretty close race right now. So I'm pretty close to being able to make the next mark, and you can see there's two arrows going at the same time. That's indicating that there's a gate there. There's two buoys out there in the distance, and I can go around either one of those just as long as I pass in between them, and that's called a gate. You can see that on that leg we actually pulled out in front. The French boat is now behind us, so we did pretty good there. As long as I go through that gate, I am legal. I can go around the left side or I can go around the right side, whichever one I think is an advantage based on the wind. Now the French boat is sailing a little bit higher than us, and I was actually too far off the wind. My arrow was a little bit blue, but now we're heading toward that mark. Again, the wind is coming off my right quarter. It's hitting the French boat first, and in sailboat racing, that spinnaker actually blocks a good portion of the wind, so I'm downwind of them. I'm actually in their dirty air, and from what I understand, this game actually represents that fairly accurately. So, but I think we're far enough away now that it's not going to matter. So I'm dropping the jib, or dropping the spinnaker, hoisting the jib. We're rounding the mark. I want to get that arrow to turn green, pick up some speed, and then we'll figure out what the best point of sail is to head toward the next mark. So we are now almost 12 seconds ahead of the French boat. So we got off to a bad start, but we're sailing pretty good now. So we are 12 seconds ahead. We're on a port tack, again, the wind coming on the left-hand side. And now I'm just going to sail to a point where I want to keep the French boat behind us and kind of stay between them and the next mark. So I'm going to stay on this heading for a little bit, and then I'm going to tack back over to the other side. You can see the visibility is not great. The waves are relatively flat, so that shouldn't be too much of a factor. I'm going to keep my eyes on that French boat and see what they're doing. Tacking over to a starboard tack, and that will take us pretty darn close to that mark, so that's pretty good. We'll watch and see if the French boat follows suit and tacks behind us, but they're not. They're continuing on. Now right now the wind direction allows me to sail pretty close to the mark while they are sailing the same direction relative to the wind, but they're not going as close to the mark as we are, so slight advantage to us, I would think. Looking at the radar picture on the bottom left, you can see that the French boat is green. That means that I have a green light over them. I'm on a starboard tack. They were on a port tack, and starboard has right of way over port. Now we're both on a starboard tack, and once again, I still have a green light. I'm clear ahead of them. My boat is well ahead, and the boat behind has to stay out of the way of the boat that's ahead. So we did pretty good once again on this leg. It looks like we're stretching out our lead. I think the French boat probably should have tacked a little bit earlier there. You can see that mark in the distance there on the right. The arrow is pointing to the left side. That means I have to pass that mark to port, and it'll pass. The mark will pass on my starboard side. If you look at the radar screen at the bottom, there's a yellow line right through the middle of my boat, and that red mark, that is the center line for that course between the gate, which is the two marks to the right on the radar picture down the bottom. The two marks that are fairly close together, that's the gate. That yellow line connects the gate to the red mark, which is the next mark that we have to pass. And I am almost right on the center line of this leg. So I'm tacking over to see how close we are to the French boat. I don't want to get too far away from them in case the wind shifts or something strange happens. So you can see we are well ahead of them right now. We've picked up some more ground on them. So I'll have to tack again in a little bit to get around that mark to the left side. But again, the wind shift allows me to sail fairly close to the mark. That's why I want to be on the port tack right now. Just watching that wind arrow to make sure it stays green, keeping the wind at the optimum angle to my boat as we beat up into the wind. So that last mark, we had a 11.7 second lead. We'll see what we are as we round this next mark. And if I'm not mistaken, this next mark will be the last 1 minute to dash for home. Now, if you look at the radar screen, the French boat has turned red. That means it's a red light. It's just turned white, but while it was red, he had right of way over me. I'm on a port tack, he was on starboard. That means he has right of way. Getting a little bit of a wind shift there. Let me sail closer to the mark. We're going to have to make 2 more tacks to get around that mark, but we're getting pretty close to it now. So I'm going to tack now. We'll see where we are in relation to the French boat. We don't want to give up too much ground. Where'd they go? There they are. So we've got a pretty decent lead. I think as long as we just continue to sail well, we should have this race in hand. Again, looking at the radar screen, French boat is green. That's given me a green light. I'm on starboard tack, they're on port tack. I have the right of way. So they're far enough away that it's not really a factor. It's something that you have to watch while you're racing. So right now I can lay that mark. I can get around the mark on this tack, so we are in good shape. I won't have to tack again. I'm going to try to cut this mark as close as I can, and then while we approach it, I'm going to send my crew up to start raising the spinnaker. That way we'll minimize the time where we are without the spinnaker. So right about now, send the crew up to take care of that sail. Up goes our spinnaker, down comes our jib. A little bit too far off the wind there, or on the side of the wind, it almost blew us over. I'm just going to make that arrow green. Crew gets back on the side of the boat, on the starboard side of the boat, to level it out, and we are just dashing for the finish line. French boat rounded 20.58 seconds behind, so we picked up another 9 seconds on that leg. I think that's because they sailed too far. They were on the port tack. I think they sailed too far on that leg, so they lost a little bit more space. So very unlikely they're going to be able to catch us unless my boat sinks. So we've got this race in hand. Wind is shifting, almost dead behind the boat there, so I have to steer a little bit more over to the right or to the starboard side, get that arrow to turn back green so it picks up maximum speed for this leg as possible. And we will have to jibe one time. I don't think I can get in between that gate to finish the race. We'll have to jibe one time to actually finish, but we have plenty of time to do that. French boat 20 seconds behind. Wind just shifted again. You can see the speed fell off to about 12 knots, and it's up to 13 as I make that arrow turn green, but we are well and clear of that French boat. So you can see the green mark off there in the distance to the left of my sail. That's the right edge of the gate that we have to pass through to end the race. And we're flying along at 13.5 knots and 20 knots of wind, so pretty good boat speed. So I'm going to have to jibe here in order to come between those two buoys, the green buoys. That yellow arrow is marking the center of the finishing gate. So you don't have to aim for that arrow. Just as long as you pass between the two green buoys, you'll be fine. But you can see our lead over the French boat there in the distance as we approach the finish line. The poor visibility makes seeing that fire buoy kind of difficult, but we're just about there. There you have it. We finished the race in a little over 12 minutes, and the United States defeats France. China defeats Switzerland. Japan defeats Italy. Spain over Great Britain. New Zealand over Australia. Germany picks up, I think, their first win of the year, defeating Brazil. So here's the standings after 5 rounds in the Melges Cup. 5 rounds out of 11 are in the bag in the United States. Our boat has won our 4th straight race. We are now tied for the lead with Spain, followed by New Zealand, Japan, and Switzerland, Italy, and France, and Australia. China is by themselves with 4 points. Brazil and Germany each have 1 win, and Great Britain is looking for their first win of the season. So that's it for round 5. We'll be back with round 6 pretty soon. We'll see you on the water. This is Ram 55. If you like this series, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like. I'd like to hear any comments you have on us, things that you'd like to see. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.